The topic today, principles of success, is a very important topic because I think at the end of the day, um, let me illustrate by what I mean by saying important topic. I had a mentor, one of my first jobs, and he said to me, we were walking down. I was in that was my first job in India. I was in the tea gardens in the Anamalis. And he was Mr. Ahmadullah. His name was Ahmadullah. He was the head of the company. So he said to me, he said, "Tell me this tea bush, what makes it grow?" So I said, "Manure." He said, "Right, that's right, manure." So he said, "Manure, when you put it, it makes the bush grow. It is good for the bush. It makes it grow. It's beneficial." So he said, if you live in this world and if there is no effect, the manure has an effect in that it makes the bush grow. He said, if you live in this world and you have no effect, then your worth is less than that of manure. Now that may sound a bit hard if we look at it just the wording of it. But I can say that perhaps that was one of the most effective statements that I've ever heard, and one of the most effective statements that has stayed with me throughout my life, which is to ask myself this one simple question. And I think that question is the first thing that I want to give you, first gift of mine from this lecture. And that question is to ask yourself, what is the effect of my being alive? What is the effect of me being in this world? And remember, the effect of you being in the world can be both positive and negative. So obviously, it goes without saying that we are talking about the positive effect, not about a negative effect. So the question you're asking yourself, and you should ask yourself, is what is the effect of me being in this world, of me being alive? Now, I'm seeing questions coming up here, and a lot of people have said salam. So, walaikum salam to you. This one question was, we would like to know your routine. Do ask me the questions after the lecture is over, because I don't promise to remember all of them. So, the first thing I want to say to you is, ask yourself this question: why am I alive, and what is the effect of me being alive? What does that translate to? It translates to how well do you know yourself? How well do I know myself? How well do you know yourself? Now, the key thing to understand in all of this is that the degree to which you know yourself, to that degree you can leverage your strengths. It's very important to understand this because, and I'll give you an example. Again, in the Animalays, we had some guests from the UK, and we were taking them. I was taking them to see the Animalay Wildlife Sanctuary. In those days, it was a national park, and even now it's a national park. And we were going to a place called Top Slip. Now, I knew that on the way to Top Slip was an elephant camp. It was a forest department's elephant camp. The forest department had some timber extraction work that they were doing, and they had these elephants in this camp. So I decided to take these friends of ours to that elephant camp. Now, we went there and we found this very, very large male tusker who was tethered a little bit away from the other elephants. And the thing which struck me was, one was his size, because he was massive. I've never seen an Asian elephant that big. And second thing was that he was very, very black. He was absolutely like a black rock. And like all elephants, he was standing there and rocking back and forth, this way. One of his hind legs was tied to a stake with a very thick rope, a coconut fiber rope. So this person who was with me from the UK, this guest of mine, she asked me, she said, that rope, is it strong enough to hold the elephant? So I laughed and I said to her, let me ask the, I know the answer to that, but I thought, let her get it from the horse's mouth, and not the elephant's mouth, but the horse meaning the the elephant driver, the Mahavat. So I asked the Mahavat, I said, this lady wants to know whether this rope is strong enough to hold the elephant. Now the Mahavat, he knew that I knew the answer, and I was speaking I was speaking to the Mahavat in Tamil, and the lady had to translate for her. And the Mahavat said something to me, and this is my lesson to you. My point here to you is, apart from the story, is this lesson, which is, the Mahavat said that rope which is tied to the hind leg of the elephant, he said, if that elephant wants to break that rope, if that elephant wants to pull out that peg and just walk away, all it takes is one kick. He says that he just sort of moves his leg like that and the rope will fly. The question is, the elephant will never do that. And why will it never do that? Because the elephant does not know its own strength. Now, how does that happen? The reason why human beings can train elephants is because we get into their heads, we get into their minds, and we control their minds. And you know how that is done. What that is done is, when that elephant is a baby, when they are training it at the beginning of the training, they tie that elephant to a similar stake with a similar rope. Now, when that elephant is a baby, even when it's an adolescent or something, that rope is too strong for that elephant to break. So over that period of time, over a couple of years, the elephant learns one very important lesson. That lesson is completely false. And that's why I'm saying that to you, to understand and to ask you, what is the rope that is holding you? The important lesson the elephant learns is that I cannot break this rope. And then what happens is, the elephant stops trying. Now, I've been to elephant training camps. Elephants are my favorite animal. And I've seen youngsters who are tied to the ropes, especially if the mother is out somewhere. You see them struggling. Right? They're trying their best and they're using all their strength and they're screaming and they get very angry and very temperamental about all this and so on and so forth. And you don't want to be even near an adolescent at that time, because even that size and age, they are far too strong for you. And one whack by the trunk and it will send you flying. But they try their best. They try every trick in the book. And eventually they reach a stage where, if you see an adult elephant, and see this anywhere, you will find that the leg which is tied to the rope or to the chain, that leg doesn't move. The elephant does not even move that leg. It will move the other legs as it's rocking, but it will not even move that leg. And the reason is because the elephant is convinced itself that this rope cannot break. Now, what is the lesson? The first lesson is that this rope cannot break was the correct understanding and was the correct life lesson to learn when the elephant was a baby. But now, when that elephant is a full-grown adult, he weighs around maybe 3.5 to 4 tons. He stands about maybe 12 feet high at the shoulder, or 10 feet or 12 feet high at the shoulder. His strength is such that if you have seen timber extraction operations, he will take a teak tree, a whole teak trunk, which is maybe 20 feet long, and they tie a chain to the trunk, and at one end of the chain there is a leather or a canvas cloth which they give to the elephant, which he holds in his mouth like this. And then just one jerk of the head like that, and that huge, massive tree trunk, you would need a JCB to lift it. There's no way that any number of people can actually lift it. That tree trunk comes flying to him like a pencil. Yet that elephant will not break that rope. Not because it doesn't want to, but because it has convinced itself that I can't do it. So the first lesson to say to you is, know yourself. What does that also mean? It means also that you continuously keep on re-evaluating yourself, because you, when you were an adolescent, are not the same as when you are an adult. We acquire strengths, we acquire also weaknesses, and unless we keep on assessing ourselves, we never know ourselves. What is the way of knowing yourself? Two ways. One is to look in the mirror. Introspection and reflection. Look in the mirror and understand. Don't be afraid of seeing the picture in the mirror. Thank God that you are seeing that picture, because you also have the power to change that picture. Introspection and reflection. And the second one is to talk to the talking mirror, which is called feedback. Take feedback. Seek feedback. Notice I'm not saying accept feedback. I'm saying seek feedback. Once you get the feedback, then you evaluate that feedback. You think about how that feedback actually applies to you. Do that without justifying. Do that without defensiveness. And then you can say that you can see what your current situation is. What are really your strengths? Now that is absolutely critical, because without that, you will be like that elephant. You will have strengths that you are not aware of. And when you are not aware of that strength, even though you have that strength is of no use to you. It's a worthless thing to you, right? So the first lesson in first principle of success is to know yourself. This lockdown period is really a blessing, where you have all the time in the world. You got nowhere to go. Sit peacefully at home, take a piece of paper, write down, do your reflections, ask yourself, and talk to people. Speak to your friends, speak to your enemies, whoever. I have been self-employed. I own my own company, and I started in 1994. So from 1994, I have no boss, except the other one in the house. But she's not here now, so I can say this without fear. But every year, I do my own performance appraisal. No one tells me to do that. If I don't do that, there's no one sitting on my head saying, now you can't get an increment, or you can't get promoted. For me, promotion is what? Promotion means I, print a different business card, right? So designations, promotions, I'm out of this from 1994. They have no value for me. The only thing which has value for me is actual, measurable value add to myself. So I do my annual performance appraisal. Second thing I do is I invest in my own learning. Now, I do that in two major ways. One is I read. I read usually 2 books a month, sometimes 3. but never less than one book a month. I pick topics which I want to research on, and I read on those topics. I also read for, I mean, I don't read too much of it. I don't read sort of so-called entertainment stuff because I'm very entertained with what I read, so I don't need any additional entertainment. So I read that. I'm very jealous of my time, so I structure it very clearly. I do only things which are useful and valuable in the time that is spent. I don't watch television, for example. I have not had a television in my house since 1994 onwards. I don't even own a television. And believe me, it's no loss. It's absolutely no loss. So the point I'm making is that I add to my own learning consciously by investing in reading material, by reading, and by attending courses for myself. So I attend courses for myself, and I pay for that. Right? So I do this. Now, how is this beneficial? It's beneficial because when I go to a client for my own, for my consulting practice, and once in a while somebody might have a question to say, what do you bring to the table? Today, by the grace of God, I've been in this work now for 35 years, so there are not too many people who ask me that question because they know the answer already. But those who do ask, all I need to do is to show them my last 1 year's my own value assessment, what I have done, my value addition to myself, and that's it. I've never had a problem with that, even including, for example, once in a while. Again, this doesn't happen in decades, but sometimes somebody might say, this is the fee that you're charging. We've got another person who has quoted less than this. What can you reduce your fees? So all I say is, here is what value addition I have done to myself in the last 1 year. You might like to ask the other person for the same. And I never lost a client for that reason. So how well do you know yourself? First principle. And the addition to that is, how do you know yourself? By introspection. And as I said, non-defensive. Don't justify, don't make excuses, because excuses do not change reality. Excuses do not change reality. If you can't get up in the morning and you have an excuse, but I was so tired, but last night it was so late, this or that. Fact is, you did not get up in the morning. No matter what excuse you give, the fact is you did not get up in the morning. So, no excuses. Introspection and reflection and feedback. So, how well do you know yourself? Second principle of success is discipline. Discipline is to do what needs to be done, not only what you like to do. And this is a big stretch for a lot of people. A lot of people confuse what they like to do with what needs to be done. Muhammad Ali, the great boxer, famous, there's a wonderful quotes of his. And one of his quotes is, he said, nobody enjoys going to the gym. We go to the gym because if you don't go to the gym, you lose in the ring. As simple as that. Right? So if somebody is telling me that I'm pumping weights and so on and so forth, my whole body is paining and I'm enjoying that, you're crazy. Nobody enjoys that. But you do that. So also with feedback. Many times people say, you know what, I really appreciate critical feedback. I really like critical feedback. That's rubbish. Nobody likes critical feedback. But you take critical feedback. You listen to it very carefully because you know the benefit of that. And even more importantly, you know what happens if you ignore it. So discipline is to do that which you need to do, which is getting up early in the morning, which is making your bed when you have got up, not leave it rumpled like a garbage dump. It is to shine your shoes. It is to wear proper clothes. I'm not talking about the style of clothing. That depends on your culture. It depends on your situation. It depends on the weather and so on and so forth. But clothing which is clean, neat, and which shows that you have taken care of yourself. Discipline means that you also take care of yourself, of your own body. Right? If you look like a sack of potatoes, it's saying something about your discipline. It's saying something about the fact that you have no control over yourself. And I, as a potential client, would be very hard pressed to say that am willing to follow the advice of somebody who has no self control. So, discipline. Is a wonderful quote where this person said that we are all destined to feel two kinds of pain: the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And that's the choice you make: pain of discipline or the pain of regret. So, first, know yourself. Two, discipline. Third one is your vision. Where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Right? Many times, young people come to me and they say, I want to start my own business. I said, sure, go ahead. No, what business should I do? Now, that's a completely dumb question, right? It's a totally dumb question, because it's like it's like asking who do you think I should marry? How do I tell you? You want me to tell you who you should marry? That's insane. So also, if you say, well, I want to start a business, most welcome, of course, please do. But what business should I start? Now that is what I mean by vision. My vision is, it's not something, I don't believe in this envisioning as an exercise. We do visioning as an exercise, as in scenario planning and so on. But for example, people say just visualize, visualization. Just visualize this beautiful world and it will happen. Let me give you an exercise. Go stand at the bottom of a staircase. Go stand at the bottom of the staircase and visualize yourself on the top and see if you get there. Right? You can stand and visualize till you drop dead of old age, but you will still drop dead at the bottom of the staircase. You're not going to get on top until you start climbing that staircase. Visualization is fine as a matter of having a picture in the mind. But if anyone believes that, I saw this comment yesterday on LinkedIn, completely insane comment, to say, I just visualize and oh, come on, man, give me a break. You're living in this world or what, right? You visualize and you are there. Try it. Stand at the bottom of a staircase and visualize yourself on top and see if you get there. Same thing in life. Visualization is fine. Have a vision. What is it that drives you? What is your vision in life? What is it you want to accomplish? What do you want to be remembered for? What do you want to be remembered for? What is that space in life and time that you are filling? That when you are gone, there will be a hole there. There will be a vacuum there. What is that? And as I have been saying to you, that's not something that somebody else can give you. If you are following somebody else's vision, you are a slave. As simple as that. You need to follow your own vision. It is true that your vision may dovetail into somebody else's vision, which is fine, but remember, it has to be your own vision. If you are following somebody else's vision, you are a slave. And there are a lot of people in the world who are slaves. So, what is your vision? And that vision is something that you should be able to write down. And my standard is that vision you must be able to write down in one sentence. And one sentence is not like 15 lines like this, no, one straight sentence. Right? My vision is to open the world one mind at a time. To open the world one mind at a time. That's my vision. That is what I have dedicated my life to doing. To teaching, to learning, to talking to people, to writing, and to try to influence people to open their minds, to open their hearts to one another, to love one another, to respect one another, to help one another, and never ever to hate one another, never ever to discriminate against one another. This is my vision. And this is what I have been doing ever since I can remember. And this is what I intend to do, inshallah, until the day I die. So, point number 3. First one, what is, who are you? Number 2, discipline. Number 3, vision. Number 4, and with vision comes this, which is commitment. What are you willing to put into your own development? You know, many times people come to me and they say to me, I want you to help me with my life. I want you to help me to get a great vision. But you know, I have only half an hour. Or they come to me and they tell me, can you spare me some time? So I say, sure, okay, all right, I'll help you. I'm you know, willing to help people. So what time? So I tell them, well, how about tomorrow 5 p.m. Oh, but you know, I've got to go to this place. I've got to watch this thing on television, or I have an appointment with somebody else. So that's all right. So you tell me your time. How about he gives me a time? Now that time is not convenient for me. And then he will blame me and he will say, I didn't give him time. You know, in my whole life, I'm 64 years old now, and my whole life is built on some wonderful mentors I had, and I still have. And one principle that I have always used for myself, which I want to share with you, which is that I treat knowledge with respect, and I treat people of knowledge with respect. What does that mean? It means that when I come to you as a source of knowledge, then I have no boundaries, I have no compulsions, I have no conditions for you. I will do whatever you tell me to do because I am coming to you as a person of need. I am the one in need. You are not in need to teach me. I am in need to learn from you. So I am willing to spend whatever time it takes. I am willing to do whatever it is. I am willing to come at whatever time you want me to come. Whether that is convenient for me or not is immaterial. Whatever is convenient for you is convenient for me, because you are the one from whom I am learning and I am the one in need. This is how I have approached whoever I have learned from, and there are Alhamdulillah, some of them have passed away, but there are others who are alive and who will vouch for this. I am not the one who puts conditions. Never. But today we have this entitlement mentality, which is the biggest curse as far as achievement is concerned. You will never achieve anything if you approach life from entitlement mentality. That things must happen according to my convenience. No, sorry, the world doesn't run like that. The world does not run according to your convenience. So if you want to catch a train, if you want to catch a plane, then you better be at that place at the time, otherwise the thing is gone. The same thing applies to learning, same thing applies to whatever you need for your success. So that's why I ask people when they tell me they want me to turn this and that and adjust this time and that time, I ask them, tell me, whose need is it? Am I asking you to teach me how to be successful, or are you asking me to teach you how to be successful? Let's get this one straight first. And the point is, if you don't have the time, go away. Go away. Find somebody else. I didn't ask you to come, so go away. Right? So very, very clear that you must be, that your vision must be clear, and you must be committed. And commitment, for example, one of my quotes, commitment is a line you cross between wanting and doing. Commitment is a line you cross between wanting and doing. Right? So we talked about who am I, we talked about discipline, we talked about vision, and we talked about commitment. I think this is, these four, I would say, are the primary principles of success. And the fifth one, and that is the last one, and it's the, well, all of them are important, but I think this fifth one is let me put it this way, that this is the reason why a lot of people do not succeed, even if they have the others, and that is their people skills. Their people skills. Your communication, your conflict resolution skills, the openness of mind, the willingness to respect people, the willingness to help people, what we call extension motivation. All of these together, I club them as people skills. So it's very, very important to develop these people skills. Communication, written communication, verbal communication, public speaking, one-to-one communication, which includes knowledge of the language. You can't get along without the, without knowledge of, without command of the language, because you won't have the words. So very important to be clear with regard to communication, how to communicate. Second thing is conflict resolution. Conflict resolution is very, very important because it is invariable, it is absolutely almost inevitable that you are going to face some kind of conflict in life. And if you cannot resolve that conflict, then that will impact your success. So conflict resolution skills are a very critical element of success in life. This includes the skill of disagreeing. How can I disagree without being disagreeable? How can I disagree without getting offended, without getting angry, without using, without breaking hearts and breaking connections and breaking friendships? So that's a very important part of understanding the issue of communication. So very important, conflict resolution, how to agree without being disagreeable. And as I said, all of this together comes from a genuine feeling in the heart of wanting to help people, what I call extension motivation. Now you might say, well, if I want to be a businessman, why must I help people, right? It's not a question of businessman or businesswoman. The question is, whatever you do, at the end of that whole cycle, there is a human being, right? You are creating a product or you're creating a service which is going to help somebody. Now, which is going to be bought by somebody. Somebody is going to pay for that. Otherwise, your survival is a matter of the revenue that you can make. And the revenue is not necessarily money revenue. It's a question of, in some cases it's acceptability, in some cases it is popularity, in some cases it is your influencing ability, and so on and so forth. So at the end of that, there is a human being there, and if you can't deal with that human being, if you can't talk to them, if you can't agree and disagree with them, if you can't resolve conflicts with them, still keeping hearts together, still keeping friendships, then you cannot succeed. So you are bound to fail. So this fifth one is communication, and as I told you, I'm just using one word as a title, but together it comes as a the whole thing comes together as one, right? I think this is enough, and thank you very much for your time. And it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And we can now have for about maybe 10 minutes or so, we can have some question and answers. Thank you very much. Zakir Ahmed has asked, any books for development and professional growth that you recommend? Yes, we'll send you a book list. What other questions? Um, Jad Delawala, he said, I would love to know your routine. All right. As I say, you asked for it. I wake up at 3 a.m. and then I do whatever I have to do. So lots of things I do. It's not, that is um, some of that I don't need to share, but um, a lot of that time I spend in reading, writing, in I make sure I try to do some physical exercise every day. I go for walks, or I go to the gym or something. And because this is my work in terms of business consulting, so I make sure I do enough reading of that. So that's what I do. I mean, but the key thing is the hours of waking and the hours of sleeping. And let me put it very simply, which is the more you are asleep, the less you can work. I mean, it's as simple as that. Somebody asked me a question, what about character? Very nice question. What about character? Sometimes I didn't mention deliberately, I didn't, for example, say that integrity is the number one requirement of success. A person without integrity cannot be successful. Today, we seem to have reduced success to the amount of money we make. So, for example, if I tell you, name for me three of the most successful people in the world, I am sure that you will name for me 3 billionaires, and more than likely 3 men, 3 billionaires. Now, that would be a very it's a very inadequate kind of list to say that its success is being a billionaire. It's not. The key thing to understand is that if you make money as the single measurement factor of success, then it gets you nowhere, because money is not the single factor of success. The most important factor of success is integrity, is how truthful you are. It's courage. It is the willingness to stand for that, for your principles. So it is to live by principles, and it is to stand for those principles, and that is that's the single most important thing. Now, you might say, well, if it is so important, how come I didn't mention it as one of the factors of success? The reason I didn't mention it is because, for example, if you board a plane and I ask you, how was the flight, tell me what would you like in this flight, right? As you are about to enter the plane, they say, the head steward says, what would you like in this flight? You might say, well, I would like to be upgraded to first class. I would like the meal to be fantastic, and I would like great in-flight service and so on. I'm sure not one of you will say that I want this flight to safely fly and safely land in my destination. Does it mean that you don't want to land in a destination, you want to die in the air or something? No. It means that safety is so supremely important that it need not even be mentioned. That goes without saying. If it is not even safe, if the plane is going to crash, what kind of meal you ate or didn't eat makes no difference, because you're dead. So the point I'm saying is that if you do not have integrity, and if you do not have courage, if you are not standing for the truth, if you are following something which is false, which is harmful, then you are dead already. Then there's no sense in talking about anything else. So that is very important for us to be very clear in terms of success, to say that integrity and commitment to that integrity, which means courage, are absolutely critical. Now, how do you define what is good and what is bad? Somebody asked this question, how do you define good and bad? In my view, anything which is helpful to people is good. Anything which is not helpful to people is bad. And by people, I define everybody, anyone in your environment. Anyone in your environment. Today we are schooled to thinking of people as people who are like me, who who believe what I believe, who look the way I look. So my race, my culture, my religion, my political leaning, all of this is completely and totally wrong. People is human beings. So to me, anyone in my environment, whoever that person is, whether that person believes what I believe, eats what I eat, looks like me or doesn't look like me, whether that person is even somebody I like or dislike, if that person is in my environment, then it is my job to ensure that that person is never harmed because of me. No word of mine and no action of mine must harm another person. That is my definition of what is good and bad. Something which goes against this is bad. So if anything which I am doing, it is something which is like I saw a very nice quote yesterday on Twitter, which said that if your religion teaches you to hate somebody, if your religion requires you to hate somebody, then you need a different religion. And I think that's my principle. If my religion teaches me, and my religion does not teach me, but if I had a religion which taught me to hate somebody else, then I would say I need to get another religion, because, and this applies to every not just religion. If my race, for example, if I am looking down on white people or black people or whichever people, then I need to do something about that. So anything which is potentially harmful to my environment, human beings, animals, birds, insects, trees, air, water, all of this is my responsibility, and it's my responsibility to ensure that nothing ever is harmed by me or my speech or my actions. So this is the fundamental principle that I try to apply to myself, and which I am also promoting to you. Superiority complex at the workplace, house. I think I have addressed all of these. How can we develop pro-social behavior in our children? I think this question yesterday I did a webinar for teachers, and they asked me the same question, and I am giving the same answer. There's only one way to teach, and that is by demonstration. Because children and people generally, they listen with their eyes, not with their ears. They listen with their eyes. They don't care what you say until they see what you do. So how do you teach people to be socially oriented? By demonstrating that in your own life. How do we teach people to be disciplined? By demonstrating discipline in our own lives. For example, I can say this with, I'm saying that I'm happy about this for myself, that I've never ever been late to a meeting, not in my entire life, right? Unless it was where a flight got delayed or something. I wasn't flying the plane, but I'm saying, and even that I have now think, did that ever happen? Because never, and the reason is because I take the trouble to come early. Let me tell you a funny story which happened just today, this beginning of the seminar. The webinar begins at 10 o'clock. So I was here at 9:30 out on the deck, and I intended to sit in this chair, and this chair had a cushion on it, and I set up everything, and I sat down to discover that I had sat in a puddle of water, because either it was dew or it was last night it rained or something, and there was this big puddle of water in the middle of the cushion. The cushion has weatherproof covering, so the water didn't get absorbed. Big puddle of water, and it's pure clean water, so it was completely transparent. So I sat down in this puddle of water. Now obviously you can imagine what happened to my trouser and everything else. Now, because I came here early enough, I was able to deal with all of that and come back here in time for the seminar. If I had been late, then you probably still wouldn't have known that, but where I'm sitting, to be sitting here with wet pants, believe me, would not have been pleasant. So make sure that you demonstrate discipline, make sure you demonstrate social responsibility, make sure you demonstrate the behavior that you want to teach. Someone told me this wonderful story. They said that he was driving somewhere and he had a Japanese friend with him, and he came to a traffic light, and he said they were coming back from somewhere very late in the night. There's nobody, absolutely no one on the street. They came to a traffic light, and when this person, the Japanese guy was driving, so he stopped. So this friend of mine said to him, there's no one here. I mean, why don't you go? He said, maybe there is a child who is watching. Now, obviously, there was no child watching at that time in the night, and this was, on the highway. But the point is, the orientation is this, which is that my behavior is being observed. And if I want people to learn something from me, then I have to do those things. Just talking about that, yaka, 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 always speak the truth and people see I'm lying. Don't smoke and people see I'm smoking. Don't abuse and then people see I'm abusing. Don't backbite and then I'm bad talking people and slandering people. This doesn't work. This simply does not work. People have to be worthy of respect. Right? This is one of the, and remember, this is since I'm sure there are lots of parents and teachers both, this is a joint responsibility. Parenting today is one of the most neglected things happening. Both mother and father work, and the children are, the parenting of children is outsourced to first nurseries and daycare centers and then to schools. And then you are very surprised that your child didn't turn out the way you wanted. The point is that you didn't spend the time and energy, you didn't invest in your child, and then saying, I wanted, well, what's this wanted? It's like my example of standing at the foot of the stairs and visualizing that you are at the top. It doesn't work. You have to do the work. As a parent, you have to do the work. As a parent, you have to invest in your child, which is not money, because parenting, people think that it's just buy them enough gadgets and everything will be fine. No, it will not be fine. They need your time, they need your emotion, they need your investment, they need your mental energy, they need your love. It's not a it's not magic. What are some unique principles of success for early career professionals? Ahmad Nasir, I think this is like somebody listening to the whole Ramayana and saying, what was the relationship between Rama and Sita? So please, just rewind and listen to this thing. There are no principles for early and late. The principles of success are the same, which is know yourself, discipline in your life, have a vision. Who should have a vision? Somebody like me? At the tail end of my career with both my feet in my grave? Or you? Everything applies from the day you open your eyes. Right? So please. Ahmad Nasir is one of my closest friends and dearest students. Yep. All right. I think I've answered all the answerable questions. My thanks to everyone for all your du'as and all the nice things you have said. And are there any practices, Zaid Ansari, are there any practices to sharpen or develop vision? Introspection and reflection. Ask your heart. Today we are not in connection with ourselves. Forget about anybody else. I think we are not in connection with ourselves. And that is the biggest problem. Ask your heart, what is it that moves you? That's it. And if that clicks, you have your vision. If that doesn't click, you can attend any number of conferences, you still won't get it. So think about that. I think that's it. 50 minutes, I think it's long enough. And so we'll call it a day, and thank you very much once again. And salam to all of you. Rajnikant, how do you control emotions? If you are Rajnikant, you don't need to control emotions. He's one of my favorite actors. I'm sure that's not the Rajnikant here, but how do you control emotions? You control emotions by first identifying that emotion yourself. What is it you're feeling? And second one is, by saying what is it that you, when you say control, what is it that you want that emotion to do? When we normally say control emotions, you really mean controlling the actions that come out of emotions. It's not the emotion itself. I may be angry, and I can't do anything about the anger. What I can do is how I'm going to express that anger. Am I going to curse and shout and scream and beat somebody, or am I going to take that anger and say to myself, why am I angry? What is it that I want to change? Right. So this is a very important thing to understand as far as anger management is concerned. I think somebody had asked a question about anger management also. Um, all right, Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you very much. Until we meet again, and make lots of dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala should save us and save everyone from this coronavirus, and remove this difficulty from us, and take away the suffering of people. Jazakallah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.